Hi there. On the 18th of May 2021, the team here at K15T decided to put on a really great webinar. That's what we thought we were going to do. The Guinness Book of World Records now considers it to be one of the most dysfunctional webinars of all times due to crazy technical issues that were sort of outside of our control. But we had a lot of fun anyway, and we really wanted to re-record things so you could see what we actually intended. And while failure is a bummer, we have learned so much through it. So here is the same webinar with the right information, the right slides, the actual poll results, and not some fake data we put in beforehand. This is the real deal with the questions and the comments that we got during the webinar that crashed and burned so badly. I hope you enjoy it. Hello, and thank you for joining our webinar today. We are going to be talking about all things Confluence Cloud and migrating our documentation to Confluence Cloud, getting your team to this new platform from Server. It can feel scary, perhaps, but you know what? We are all talking about this. This was an incredibly popular topic at Team 21. It's a popular topic among all the teams at K15T, and I'm guessing on your team as well. We're all thinking about, okay, what will this move look like? So we wanted to spend some time to have a real conversation here and take a deep dive into just what exactly this move involves. So a little bit of history from me. I was a project manager back at a past company on past teams, and I needed a tool where we could create content together and do a bunch of other cool stuff. And I introduced this thing called Confluence on Demand. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew it was from Atlassian, so I thought it'd be cool. And lo and behold, my little team absolutely loved this thing. And what I loved about it as an administrator was I didn't really have to administer the thing. It just kind of ran. I didn't have to worry about the server going down or having to do major updates and things. It just was. And yes, it was a bit crashy, and yes, it was a bit limited, but we loved how simple it was to get going and just be a team and do what teams do. And yes, I became a tech writer after that and needed some more advanced apps from a company called K15T, whom I now work for. And so I did have to move to Server. But I've always had this place in my heart for Confluence on Demand, which has grown up into Confluence Cloud, which is just so much better. Just like, the crashiness is gone, and now we have this platform that is being rolled out for everyone to use. It's really, really exciting. But, you might have mixed feelings on it, right? Perhaps you're feeling the pressure from the teams and your organization, like, hey, we need to move, we need to get our content up there, we need to get our documentation on Confluence Cloud, and maybe you're excited about it, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're feeling that pressure and you're just like, I don't know, I'm just not sure if this is the move for us. I hear that. These are all things that we have to consider. So let's chat about that today. But before we get into that, behind every good migration to the cloud, there's a good team, and behind every webinar, there's a good team as well. So I just wanted to introduce the whole team we have here. Say hi, everybody. So with me here, first off, right over here is Sven from Lively Apps. He is our guest today on the webinar. He's going to be walking us through how Lively Apps moved all their documentation to Confluence Cloud and used some of K15T's apps to turn it into a full-fledged help center. Really, really cool. Excited to look at that. And then we also have Laura, our user researcher, who will be exploring the differences between the Confluence Server editor and the Confluence Cloud editor. There are some important differences to know, and she really dives deep into that. Below me here is Dash, who is our product manager extraordinaire for Scroll Documents, which handles versioning on cloud. We have Stefan, who is our product manager extraordinaire for Scroll Viewport, which is what we'll take a look at with Lively Apps a bit later. And then way over there, having trouble pointing, is Gabriella. You'll never see her face again in this webinar, but she is the mastermind behind so much of this, running a lot of great things in the background. Thank you so much, Gabriella. None of us would have made it to this webinar if not for you. So thank you, team. It is so great to have you all here. So that's the team. Let's talk about the webinar itself. We're going to handle questions throughout this. You can use the Q&A button in the bar down there in Zoom. Type in your questions as they come to your mind. We'll try to answer them either throughout the webinar by typing back to you, or we will answer some of them at the end. Also, we're going to be using polls. I don't want this just to be an hour of me talking. You don't want that either. So instead, give us some thoughts. We'd like you to be part of the conversation. We'll have 2 polls throughout, and I'll let you know when those will be launching. Please share your thoughts, and then that will help us with our discussion here today. So here's what we're going to talk about. First, I'll give a brief intro to what Confluence Cloud is and how Confluence Cloud is a little bit different than Server. Then we'll take that deep dive into Lively Apps Help Center with Sven and really have a good look at what they've implemented in Cloud and what they think about it. Then we'll take some time and talk about apps in Cloud. What apps matter to you and your teams with moving to Cloud, and what maybe is new in Cloud. Then we'll talk about the editor in Confluence Cloud. How is it different? Is it better? Is it worse? All those things. We'll explore that better with Laura. And then we'll talk about app migrations with Dash and Stefan. What does your team need to consider with the apps that you're using? What does a migration look like from Server to Cloud? And then finally, I will leave you with some next steps, some resources your team can use to take hopefully a brain full of information and go and move to the cloud. I'm excited about it. So if you know all about the differences between Confluence Server and Confluence Cloud, go grab a cup of coffee, because I will spend 3 minutes talking about this. 3 minutes. If you don't know, sip the cold coffee you have and let's jump right into things. So the first thing to know is hosting. Hosting is different. It's built in the cloud. So Confluence Cloud is built on the Amazon AWS architecture, which is great. It means it's global, it means it's scalable, all those magical things. One challenge with that right now is data residency options are not super robust. At the moment, you can pick Frankfurt, Dublin, the US, Singapore, and Sydney, which might not meet the needs of your organization if you have to keep your content in a very specific place based on local laws or privacy policies. So that's something to keep in mind. That's something that Atlassian has said they are continuously working on and improving, so we expect to see more options there in the future. Also, storage is a big thing to understand. You can't just go pop another few hard drives into your RAID array and have more storage. Now you have storage based on the package that you're buying. So if you're using the free plan, you have 2 gigabytes of storage available to you. If you're using the standard plan, you have 250 gigabytes. And if you're using the premium plan, you have unlimited storage. I don't even know what I would do with that much storage, but that is a thing with the premium plan. The next thing to know is administration is a bit different in cloud. Some positives: there's no more maintenance and updates. They happen automatically. And you can decide, do you want them to be continuous? That is, as soon as an app or Confluence has an update, it's just rolled out. Or do you want to bundle those and stage them? So you say, once a month for my organization, all of our updates go out. That gives you some time to test things, make sure it doesn't interfere with any of your workflows, that sort of thing. You have some options for how those roll out. There's also user-based pricing, so you pay for what you use. Some people love that, some people don't love that. That's a thing. Some limitations. Admins can't do some of the things they used to be able to do in Server. You can't just go query the database because the database is part of the platform. You can't use those CSS hacks that you used to use. We've all been there. Yeah, those are kind of a security issue, as well as user macros. We can't write our own custom user macros because those also could be a security issue as well. There are no options for that at the moment. So some differences in administration and some differences in apps on Confluence Cloud. So first of all, data residency options are still not available for apps. So unfortunately, if you were like, we want all of our content to be kept in Frankfurt, we couldn't ensure that as an app developer, that the content for our apps are living in Frankfurt. But Atlassian assures us they are working on that option. So we're excited to see what they get us there so that you have better control over where your data lives. Some apps don't exist on cloud. If you're using a freeware app that was developed 15 years ago, maybe the developer's like, I'm just not gonna take the time to rewrite that and put it on cloud. But I am excited to see more and more apps dropping on cloud every day. Really, really powerful apps. So the move is happening. So if you don't see an app on cloud, reach out to the developer. They might be working on it. And then finally, you might be noticing there are some features that are missing currently in cloud. They're coming. They're coming. From the perspective of an app developer, we're working on these things, but the platform is different. It works differently. And so we have to make different considerations and have different ways of doing things. Whew, I think that was 3 minutes. I really hope so. So here is the beginning of our first poll. You should see this popping up in a separate little window in Zoom. We want to know what app categories matter most to you and your team in Confluence. And it doesn't matter if you're on server, cloud, data center right now, which apps matter most to you. If you want to see what apps are in these categories, you can head over to the marketplace, the Atlassian marketplace, and take a deep dive and look at those and let us know your thoughts. And we will take a look at those in a few minutes. So I am really, really excited to take a lively look at Lively Apps Help Center. That's a terrible joke, but I really love what the team has done here, and I wanna show more of it. So Sven, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about the Lively Apps journey to cloud and the whole Help Center thing. Like, that's a big decision to make, and tell us more.
Thank you so much, Matt. Yeah. Let's start for us the whole cloud migration journey. It all started with us founding Lively Apps last year. We weren't a completely new company. Instead, we were branching off of this other existing company. So that means there already was some infrastructure in place. We had a few Confluence Server instances, 2 to be precise. We had an internal one, and we had one for our public documentation for our apps. And we definitely didn't want to maintain the infrastructure of them anymore. So we wanted to go to cloud. And we were also a bit annoyed by the fact that we had to maintain 2 systems. So we knew that we wanted to consolidate them into one. So we had this kind of plan, and we went ahead and just created single space exports from our internal Confluence and imported them into cloud, right? And yeah, that went pretty well for the most part. We ended up having a few broken pages. We had a few tables within tables, a few messed up links, but really nothing major, right? And that went all pretty smooth. But for our help center, it didn't go so well. And I think I would like to share my screen with you so I can show you what went wrong there.
Okay. Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah. This is a screenshot of what we were looking at right after we imported the first space from our documentation into cloud. And you might look at this now and think, what's bad about this? And you'd be forgiven. But if we look at our old documentation, you can see that we had actually hidden some of those elements that you don't want to see in a documentation, right? Stuff like menu items up here, and you can see it in this screenshot, but likes and labels, comments, all that kind of stuff. You don't want to see that when you're reading a documentation, right? So we had hidden that, and that's not possible in the cloud. And we didn't like that, but that wasn't a huge issue. What came out to be more of an issue for us was that we realized for this whole thing to work, we would have to make the space public, right? And that would mean we would have internal spaces right next to this public space in our Confluence. And we might be discussing confidential things, and it's not always easy to tell if the space you're in is public or not. So we didn't like that idea. And yeah, I mean, it would also just make collaboration much harder, right? You couldn't discuss things. Comments would always be public. And yeah, we didn't like it at all. So we were in this weird state for a long time where we had Confluence Cloud for our internal Confluence. And we were still using Confluence Server for our documentation. Yeah, and we didn't know how to solve that. But then we found out about Scroll Viewport, and that basically helped us get around all of the problems with Confluence that I just mentioned, right? What it allows you to do, you can essentially still have private spaces, but publish the content in those spaces to a real website that actually looks like a help center. I'm just gonna show you. Yeah, I have it open here. So this is what it looks like. You can see all of our spaces for all of our products.
Wow.
I have set them up as content sources.
How many apps do you have?
I think it's like 14 or something. Oh. Yeah, we have quite a lot.
That's awesome. Awesome. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we look at, for example, the task commander for Confluence Cloud Space, you can see this immediately. It looks much better, right? You can tell this is what you expect when you come to a documentation. So we were quite happy with that. But not only does it look much better, it also comes with features that we didn't even have on server. For example, this table of content up here that gets generated automatically for all of your pages, or this button down here through which people can immediately raise support tickets, which we find really helpful. And yeah, one thing that I actually didn't mention when I showed you this earlier, you can see that it's running on our own domain, right? So this is also something that we really loved about Scroll Viewport. We didn't have to reroute anything. We didn't have to use a .atlassian.net domain or something like that. So yeah, thanks to K15T, to you, Matt, and team for building this app. We absolutely love it, and we didn't think that Scroll Viewport would unblock us in the end with our migration, right?
Well, that's really awesome. So it's funny. I used to, as a user of K15T apps, I was also saved by Viewport in my last job. So it's great to see that trend continues. It looks really good, and I'm really inspired by your story because you moved everything. And with Viewport, you were able to move your documentation as well. I was really curious, like from the content creator side of thing, did your content get messed up? Like you mentioned, there were tables within tables, which that wasn't a good idea on server. But like, did stuff just break? And did you like move to the new editor? Like, how does everything look?
Yeah, there are some problems, right? Because the server editor works differently than the cloud editor. Right. So as you said, tables within tables, that won't work. But luckily, we had very simple content. If you look at this, right, this is basically how most of our pages look in Confluence. And we didn't experience any major issues. I actually really like the new cloud editor by now. It took me a bit to get used to, but now I wouldn't want to go back. And yeah, I'm really happy with it.
There's something about it. Like at first, especially if you started using the cloud editor when it first was like released, it was like it was very limited, right? And now I'm like going back to the server editor. I'm like, I want my slash command. I want to just slash stuff, but then I just start adding a date in server because that's what the slash does. Yeah, that's fantastic. So you're liking Viewport. That's fantastic. And you're liking cloud. If you could just ask for a new feature, just right now, just ask for a new feature to make your documentation life better, what would it be? This is free.
Yeah, I think so. What I would like to see more of, something that's not really possible with Confluence Cloud right now, is more theming capabilities of Confluence itself, right? I mean, if you look at Scroll Viewport, that's of course amazing. You have things like custom CSS. You can design all of this yourself, right? But I would like to be able to change the look and feel of my actual Confluence pages a little more. That's not something that you can do right now. And if anyone from Atlassian is listening, please implement something like that. I would love it.
Yeah, we even the simplest things like on server, like being able to change some of the colors to designate like, hey, by the way, this this space is connected to our documentation site. So if you change something here, it will be seen by people. Yeah. If you hear our thoughts right now, Atlassian, please give us some customization opportunities, please. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for showing us the Help Center. This looks so cool. If you want to check it out, it's help@livelyapps.com, right? Not .net. So we are now going to move over to look at some of the results from our poll. So some of the results, some of the thoughts that you shared on which app categories matter most to you. And I'm actually going to bring Sven in so we can talk about this together. And Sven, there's one category that sticks out a bit to me with document management.
Oh yeah.
I'm just pulling up the marketplace now to see the apps that are in this category, but I'm curious, document management, what kind of apps is your team using to manage documents, or is that not a thing you're doing at Lively Apps?
I mean, we're mostly working with smaller pages, right? We don't have any of these big types of documents. So we are happy with Scroll Viewports. That's the Viewport. That's the main app we are using. But I know that Scroll Versions, one of your apps, and Scroll Documents is also available for cloud, right? Which is really helpful if you're working with bigger kinds of documents that don't really fit on one Confluence page, or that you shouldn't fit on one Confluence page. And I've heard Confiforms is also available, which I think is just the greatest use case ever, right? How cool is that you can build surveys within Confluence and have people answer them right there?
Yeah. I've been really amazed by the power of some of the apps that have come out. I know the utilities and admin tools responses here didn't get too much love, but Script Runner for Confluence Cloud, when that dropped, I was just really amazed. Like, that is a really powerful app that we can use that in cloud. That's really, really, really amazing. And of course, another big document management app is Scroll PDF Exporter, another one from my team. But a lot of teams are still having to generate PDFs for our clients, for working with other teams that aren't in Confluence yet. And another one that I thought was interesting is we have a lot of responses in the themes and styling apps section. So
yeah, you can see it here again. People really want more styling capabilities, right? I'm not alone.
Do you hear us, Atlassian? Do you see our results here? Yeah, and I really am impressed by the options here. So yes, there is Scroll Viewport, which we looked at together, but then we have there's quite a few options that are available in cloud, like content formatting macros, I know is a really popular one, visibility, and Aura. I haven't played with Aura, but it seems like there's a fair bit that can be done with that.
It looks great. Yeah.
I've
been looking at their screenshots. They have some of the coolest macros, probably some of the best looking ones, I think.
I'm jealous. I want our apps to have some of the coolest macros in them. But this is fantastic. This was not the case for cloud even a year ago. Things have really started to change in an exciting way. Finally, it's happening. It's really happening.
Yeah, it's really taking off. I mean, we released a couple of cloud apps. I think we released 5 cloud apps within the last couple months. So it's really growing fast.
Yeah, it's been pretty lively over there for you. The terrible jokes are free. But stay, there will be more webinar after this. All right. Thanks for looking at these with me, Sven. Okay. All right. So with great cloud comes great responsibility. I think Spider-Man's uncle said that or something. It's a bad joke. With the cloud comes a lot of new opportunities for us as app developers, including a new development platform that Atlassian's created called Forge, which is in its infancy right now, but we're really excited about the potential that it gives us for a lot of different reasons. But we're really excited that both K15T and Lively Apps have been able to launch new apps that are unique to cloud on this new platform. So I wanted to sort of show what can be done on cloud that's sort of new and we're really excited about. So Sven's going to show us their new app, link management for Confluence, and then we'll look at the scroll content quality app from K15T.
Here we have a company that recently migrated to a new domain. This means they have to change a lot of links in their Confluence pages to point to their new website. This can be quite a hassle, but with link management for Confluence, you can scan all Confluence pages in your space for links. Here you can search for the exact link that you want to update, and it will show you how many times it appears and how many pages in your space. Now, link management allows you to update all occurrences of this link across all pages that it appears in at once. If there's multiple occurrences of your link on the same page, you can also edit those one by one. Applying the changes only takes a few seconds. And there we go. Link management has gone through our space and updated our links on every single page. And our content is up to date again.
Here we have a documentation page that a team has created together in Confluence. While the content manager really likes that anybody can contribute to the documentation, she also really wants to encourage people to use a collection of writing conventions. Now, typically these types of rules and standards are hard for teammates to memorize and even harder for reviewers to catch and enforce. But with the scroll content quality for Confluence app, authors can get a quick indication of any issues on a page. Along with that, they can view a full report of any mistakes that have been made that need to be corrected. The collection of writing conventions being checked here are stored as an editable YAML file. Scroll content quality comes with a predefined collection of writing conventions to help authors with headings and capitalization, broken links, inclusive language, and you can add custom rules to suit your team's needs. So check out the scroll content quality for Confluence app in free beta today to ensure quality content and save your team time.
Yes, you heard it here first. It supports an editable YAML file. Try saying that 5 times fast. Saying it once is really, really tricky. But yeah, we're really excited about cloud and what we can do with cloud. There are some amazing new apps that we've been able to make and we're seeing elsewhere as well. So keep an eye on the marketplace to see what new stuff is coming, because I think we're going to see some surprising new abilities added to Confluence with some of these new developments. Speaking of new developments, it's time to talk about another poll. So in this one, we really want to know, where is your team in this migration process? What are you thinking about right now? Or have you already made a decision? And where do you plan to go next? So that should pop up. Take your time to fill that out. And in the meantime, what's the deal with the new Confluence Cloud Editor? Is it good? Is it not good? Well, that's completely up to people's opinion. We're really excited about it. It has grown so much in the last year. But Laura is going to take a really deep dive here to take a look at all the things you can expect in cloud. What's the same? What's different? What is great? What needs improvement? So that your team creating content and documentation in Confluence Cloud know what is waiting for them on the other side.
Here I have a page from my team's product documentation that we just recently migrated from our Confluence Server instance to our cloud instance. Let's take this example page to see what the Confluence Cloud Editor looks like and what's different to the to the server one. Now, the first thing that might stand out here is the extra white space. It does contribute to a more comfortable reading and editing experience, which is especially helpful when you spend a long time in the editor. You could also click here to make the page full width and then get a similar experience to the one on server. Writing text and adding a page title is still all the same, so no changes here. The organization of the editor toolbox here is slightly different than the one on server. There are different default options, and while many of the features and macros are available across deployment types, they might have different names. So if we expand the macro list here, you can see the one here is called divider, while on server it's called horizontal rule. Keep in mind, some features are still completely missing on cloud or work very differently. You can click view more here to expand the full list of all available macros. Now, image sizing is handled different than on server. On server, it was possible to define the exact pixel value of your image. On cloud, if you simply insert your image via drag and drop, for example, it is automatically adjusted to the width of the content. And optionally, you can use your mouse to make it more narrow or wide again. Your workflow when it comes to inserting links might need some adjustments on cloud, as link search here also works very different. If we wanted to insert a link, we could go to the toolbox here and click link, or we could write the shortcut here and then have the option to paste the URL, or if it's a Confluence page, we could also search for it directly here. Now, the search popping up directly on the page speeds up the process, but if you don't know the page title, you might struggle to find what you're looking for. And while the list of recently viewed pages here comes in handy, generally, the missing and more extensive link search options that you know from server are definitely helpful when it comes to some particular cases. Scrolling through the page, you can also see that some macros will look different. This success panel is called tip macro on server, and there it's a standalone macro. Here, all panel macros are inserted via the same option, allowing you to quickly switch, clicking the icons here. Again, this is something that can optimize the workflow, especially for technical writers. Now, whether tables, images, or page layouts, in general, you might find that there are less customization options, but at the same time, there are a lot of carefully curated defaults and out-of-the-box styling options. It's pretty much what you see is what you get. So if I click publish here, I don't see an all too different page to the one I was working on. And that's a clear advantage over the editor on server. That lets you focus on your content without worrying too much about how it will display in the end.
Thank you very much, Laura, for going into that. The new editor in Confluence Cloud, when I first used it, I was skeptical, right? There was so much that it couldn't do, but it's been really amazing over the last few years, or a few months, I should say, to see how it's grown and how it's changed and what it can do. And yes, there's more that needs to be improved, but I'll share a resource on that a bit later so you can follow along in the growth of the editor as well. So now we're going to take a look at the poll results again and see what you said about where you are with your team in this whole migration process. And Sven, once again, thanks for joining and lending us your opinions here. Wow, okay. So there's a lot of people still in the decision-making process. Wow.
Oh yeah, what catches my eyes is I see that nobody decided to leave Confluence apparently. That makes me very happy.
Yeah, that is nice. That is pretty nice. Well, we're glad you're here. Yeah, I've talked with some teams that are like, oh, well, we have a productivity suite. Like maybe we could make some of those apps work for that. But like part of the problem there is I've tried some of the other options. They're great, but there's some things that just Confluence does so well that you just can't replicate in other places. So we're glad you've decided to stay. Let's all make this platform greater together. And wow, I mean, so we have what looks like maybe 12 responses of teams that have decided we're staying and we're moving to Confluence Cloud. Like Lively Apps did.
Yeah.
Thank you for leading the way, Sven, and encouraging us all. So how the thing is timeline, right? We still have a fair bit of time before teams need to really be moving. Do you think there's a lot of teams that are sort of waiting? You know, maybe they haven't decided fully because they're waiting to see about editor functionality or app functionality or something like that?
That might be the case, but I think it just takes a lot of time, right? For us as a small team, it was pretty easy to do the whole migration within just basically one day, and then it took us a little longer to fix some broken pages. But for bigger teams, for larger organizations, I think this can take pretty long. So if you're just starting to look into this all today, and you're part of a larger organization, I think this is going to take a couple months for you, maybe, until you have everything migrated. But yeah, I think you can't really do anything wrong. I think both Confluence Cloud and Data Center, they are both great, and no matter where you decide to go, it's I don't think you're making a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the teams that I've talked to, another common thing that I'm seeing is, you know, they're looking at Confluence. You know, if it's Confluence Cloud, Confluence Data Center, there are price increases for some teams, and so they're looking at it like, okay, so if we're really going all in on these tools, like maybe we should evaluate other processes or other tools we're using to see, can we replace those with Confluence, or Confluence, you know, add a new app to Confluence and replace those completely to you know, minimize the expense or the time that's being spent over there and centralize everything in Confluence. And I mean, that can be a huge, just really massive undertaking, especially like, you know, Confluence isn't just a tech writing tool. It isn't just a project management tool. It isn't just, you know, it's a tool for everyone to do many, many things. And that's a huge decision to make. All right. Well, for those of you who don't have plans to migrate yet, keep listening in, and we'll continue to cover the whole migration subject. I do think there will be some that say we're going to ride our server instance into the ground, and I'm interested to see how that works long term. But if you ever have questions on migration, Sven over here, he knows what's up, and you know, you reach out to us at K15T as well and see our thoughts as well. We're still learning also. Well, thanks so much for providing your thoughts again, Sven. I really appreciate it. So as you're thinking about migration, there is a lot to consider. And in a lot of ways, apps are a bigger part of the discussion than maybe even the initial move, depending on how much you're relying on apps. Each app can have custom settings, custom data, and so it's important to know that your app developers are ready for the move and what you need to do to make that happen. So to give you a picture of this, I wanted to bring in Dash and Stefan, who are our product managers for Scroll Documents and Scroll Viewport, so that they could talk a little bit about what it looks like to migrate from server to cloud with those two apps, to give your team sort of a perspective there. So Dash and Stefan, I wanted to sort of ask two questions for you. First, what do I need to do before I run the migration assistant to move your app? And then what do I need to do afterward, once we've arrived on cloud, to make sure that your app is all set up? So Dash, do you want to tell us a little bit about Scroll, moving from Scroll versions to Scroll Documents?
Yep, sure, Matt. So if you are moving from Scroll versions to cloud, you will first need to migrate this into scroll documents. And for that, we are building a custom migration that will help you do that. And once you migrated everything to scroll documents server, migrating to cloud is just as simple as migrating your spaces using the Confluence Migration Assistant. Because Scroll Documents is one of our new generation apps, and it was built with migration in mind. So if you have documents on server, you will get them on cloud as soon as you run them.
All right. And should I be scared as a versions user that I'm going to start using a thing called a document?
Not really. It's under the hood. It's pretty much the same thing. There'll obviously be some features that might be missing, but we are working on feature parity. But as far as the user experience goes, I can assure you it will be better, if not the same.
All right. So, Stefan, same question. What do I need to do before I run the migration assistant? And then what do I need to do once I've made it over to cloud?
Yeah. So with Viewport, since it's not heavily integrated into Confluence, you actually don't have to do much before you migrate. You just need to make sure you migrate the correct spaces from your help center, for example. You need to be aware that only the help center theme is available on cloud currently. And recommendation from my side is that you beforehand you can download the images and the theme properties files from the theme somewhere to your local device. It's easier to migrate afterwards. So after you migrate it, all you need to do is add the migrated spaces to the site. You don't need to add the portal space you needed on server, since it's not required on cloud. And then simply go through the theme editor and reapply your settings, upload the images you used. And the most important part is if you use the custom domain, but in general, you should create redirects on your server. Visitors who come to the old links still get a proper help center theme displayed in the end.
All right. And you should be pleasantly surprised when you go into that theme editor on cloud, because it is very nice, server folks. You'll enjoy it.
It's a proper theme editor.
All right. Well, thank you so much, both of you. I just wanted to make sure everybody is considering some of these things, because as you go to migrate to cloud, you should have information like this from all of your app developers. They should have a plan laid out for you, or you should be able to talk with them directly like you can with us, so you know what to expect and what you need to do before the move. So now we're going to take a little bit of time and look at the questions that you in the audience have submitted throughout the whole course of this webinar. And the great thing is we've brought in some true professionals to answer your questions. Again, I'll be talking with Dash and Stefan, so we can get their perspective. So Stefan, what questions do we have?
Yeah, so we had quite a bunch of questions, and the first one is actually about Scroll PDF Exporter and versions and translations. So the concrete question is Scroll PDF Exporter, Scroll versions and translation also available for cloud?
Right. Yeah, maybe I can take that question. So Scroll PDF Exporter is already available on cloud. You can already migrate from server to cloud. We have a manual migration process, currently working on an automated one, soon to be available. Scroll versions is not available on cloud, and it's not going to be as well, just because of the way it is implemented on server. It's technically infeasible for us to do the same on cloud. But the good news is we are investing heavily in making Scroll Documents the cloud alternative for Scroll versions. It already supports versioning and a lot of other functionality, and we are currently working on bringing more functionality like variants into Scroll Documents. And Scroll Translations, although not currently available on cloud, will be soon, and it's high on our priority list and also on our cloud roadmap as well.
Nice, good to hear that. Then the second question is, I guess, already kind of answered. Does document have variants included with it? Dash, you mentioned we are currently working on that. Maybe you can give some sort of a time frame, what's planned there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are working on that currently and hope to get it out by end of July, early August.
Yay!
Awesome.
If you are interested to sign up for beta testing, please reach out to us.
Nice. Please do so. Then we have another question. When can we expect implementation of versions functionality, at least in the beta form? I'm interested in workflow, variants, and translations. We need to make a decision on migration by the end of the year. And I don't have confidence we will have to look elsewhere. So you already talked about variants and translations. What about workflows, Dash?
Yeah, I mean, we would definitely not like to see you move away from Confluence or our product. So we'll do our best to have you on board. But as I said, so for variants, you can already sign up for beta testing. We plan to release the functionality late July, early August. And translations is something we're targeting by the end of the year to at least have some sort of beta version that you can try out. Workflows is something that we haven't yet planned for, especially in the same form as it is in Scroll versions. Scroll Documents supports some form of workflows by enabling you to set statuses and change statuses for each versions that you create. Maybe something that you can check out and see if that works for your use case. And if not, then do reach out to us. And this would be a great time to get a lot of feedback around these features.
Yeah, awesome.
Awesome.
Stefan, is that it for questions?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for your time, both of you. I'm glad we're hearing it from the mouths of the product managers themselves. Yes, please do reach out for us for beta testing or other questions. We are always interested in your feedback, especially since, you know, we're building these apps for you. So to wrap things up, let's do something with all this information. Next steps, my favorite part of any webinar. What can you do? First of all, I highly recommend Atlassian's Cloud Migration Hub. There's a lot of great resources on here. As an admin in the past, I found myself making lots of checklists. You know, when you make a big change like migrating to cloud, you have to have checklists to know that you do everything correctly, you inform people, you consider all the right things. There's a section in this migration hub called The Journey, which outlines all of that. I hope it either gives you a good start toward your checklist or means you don't have to create one at all. We explored some of these sections in great depth on this webinar today. Others we didn't get a chance to talk about. So I really recommend the site. It's a great resource for you. If you're on the content side of things and you're like, I don't really have to do the migration, but I'm really concerned about how our content's going to look, how we work with it in the new editor. What's it going to be like in Confluence Cloud? Check out the Confluence Cloud editor roadmap. I am glued to this page because they have outlined a bunch of Jira issues for what are they still planning to do with the editor? What have they already done? What's the plan? And for us content creators, this really, really matters because we need to create content. So hang on here. If there are any Jira issues that you don't see here that you think, you know, are there Jira issues that exist here? Reach out to us. I am keeping track of a huge list of them in the background in regard to the editor to make sure that we are seeing the features that we really, really need. So yeah, definitely check this page out. And then finally, K15T, we also have a cloud migration hub. If you just Google that. And here you can find information on
all those things that we're working on for cloud that have been mentioned today. So a couple of things, check out our cloud roadmap so you can see what we've worked on, what we're going to work on, and what we will be working on in the future. Also, you can see we are very often posting updates on our progress because we want you to be informed with what we're doing. So you can check out a video where David on my team does a demo of the prototype tool for moving from scroll versions to scroll documents, which will be released soon. I'm allowed to say soon. No, actually, speaking with the team, we're very close to releasing that. But have a look at what you can expect because we're really excited for your team to start seeing what that experience is going to be like, so you are confident in the move that we're all making together. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. I hope that this move to the cloud is scary and exciting and wonderful and awful and something that we're all doing together. If you are ever feeling alone in this, please reach out to us. help@k15t.com is our support email. You will talk with a real person who builds real apps for real users like you and I. Please reach out to us. We are here to journey to the cloud with you. Thank you so much for your time today, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.